Dooshbag with a gun here. When I was in my late 20s, I had the opportunity to spend about a year in Belgium for my job. It's a tiny country, about the size of Maryland, in the heart of Western Europe. It's known for its beer, which my brother Dick tends to enjoy in mass quantities. It's also known for chocolate, pommes frites, which we here call French fries, even though they were invented in Belgium. And it's also known for sweet-ass expensive firearms. And I am fortunate enough to share one of those sweet-ass expensive firearms with you today. This here is the Fabrique Nationale, or FN, SCAR 16S. Now this here rifle is on loan from a good friend of mine, Pablo Pique, who sent it over to me to do a little bit of a review. It's a registered SBR, so Pablo prefers that I don't show off the name of his trust or the serial number. And since I don't have any idea how to do any fancy editing to obscure information, I'm just going to put the ugly tape over top of the important stuff. Full disclosure, what is my relationship to Pablo Pique? Well, he and I served together. Yeah, we were both waiters at the same restaurant in New Jersey. It was a pizza joint in Hoboken. The place burned down several years ago, but Pablo and I have stayed in close contact ever since. As always, this ain't going to be a history lesson on the SCAR 16S or the SCAR program. Timmy over at Military Arms has covered that pretty well, and frankly, it was watching his videos comparing the SCAR 16S and the Bushmaster ACR that got me interested in both of those platforms. At least until I heard the price. Anyway, if you want to know about the SCAR and see all the inside bits, go check out Timmy's videos. And if you want to watch about 45 minutes of some of the best stand-up comedy on the SCAR 16S, go watch my boy Chris over at Small Arms Solutions. These rifles have never been cheap. They've always been in scarce supply, even in normal times. But these days, a quick gander over on Gunbroker tells me that a brand new black one goes for no less than $3,000. And everyone knows that the black ones are far less accurate than the flat dark earth ones, because of science. Now, old Pablo provided me with a list of all the upgrades he's done. And in keeping in tradition, we're going to go ass to mouth, because that's how I roll. On the ass end of the gun, we have the Kinetic Development Group SAS, or SCAR Adaptable Stock. This is a drop-in replacement for the UGG boot that the SCAR is known for. Gives you the option of using the ACR stock on your SCAR. I honestly don't know if I prefer it all that much. It's got a 6061 T6 aluminum adapter versus the UGG boot's plastic adapter, which I think results in some of the fitment problems because there's a touch of wobble when it's in the locked position. Might not be able to pick it up, but that thing does wobble. There is a set screw in there that you're supposed to be able to use, but I've never been able to tune it, nor has Pablo, to the point where it doesn't impact your ability to lock the stock in the closed position. So, I don't know. Wobbly shit pisses me off. I've said that before. I stand by that. If it was me, I'd probably put the UGG boot back on here. The stock goes for $300. Moving up, we have a Parker Mountain Machine modified Magpul grip. Now the assholes over at FN decided that they didn't want to use a standard A2 grip, even though the rifle ships with one. Parker Mountain mills out a touch of the material to make it actually fit the lower receiver. This runs about $40 for what should be an $18 grip. We have the Magpul safety selector. It has a 45-degree throw, but the gun always had a 45-degree throw, so that don't matter. Safety engagement is quite positive, but most importantly, if anybody knows me, it is also ambidextrous. The safety goes for $19. And while I'm on the note of the ambidextrous controls, I will point out that all of the controls on this weapon are ambidextrous, except for the bolt hold, bolt release. That is only on this side. But you do have magazine release on this side and over yonder. And then you have the highly controversial reciprocating charging handle right here that can be swapped over to the other side. On that, I just saw that FN updated the civilian version to eliminate the reciprocating charging handle, so maybe everyone can quit bitching about that for a while. Frankly, it never bothered me none, and it didn't seem to bother Pablo either. Now he's got the Geisley Super Scar trigger in here. The stock trigger on this gun was mil-spec and nothing to write home about. I'm sure it would have broken in just fine, but Pablo ain't the kind of guy with the patience for that sort of thing. So we went with my boy Billy Geisley's trigger. Now, at $325, this ain't a cheap upgrade. But I suppose when you already dropped $3K on a rifle, what's another $325 bucks? Now, if you ask me, $325 bucks can buy quite a bit of whiskey. The charging handle is a GG&G. This comes in under 30 bucks. You can reverse it and have it going up if you should want that sort of thing. I don't know why you'd do that, but you can probably see from the angle that it is swept down slightly. The stock charging handle was much shorter and came straight off the weapon, so when you were racking it, you were bound to rack your knuckles up against anything you had mounted up here. While we're talking about up there, he decided to go with a Vortex Razor 1-6. Now, this is a pricey optic, and then he put it into a Geisley Super Precision mount. Now, I asked Pablo about this, because it seemed a little silly to me. The gun has been SBR'd to have a 14.5-inch barrel, and while the Scar is a pretty accurate gun, it's no DMR. But Pablo likes the Vortex since he can use it kind of like a red dot at 1x and then crank up the magnification to make a positive target ID at 100 to 250 yards, which is about all he ever shoots this weapon at. Now, knowing where Pablo lives, it ain't very practical to take shots beyond 250 yards very often, so I can understand. That said, the optic is at least $1,400 bucks, and the mount's another $325. So Pablo must be making good money doing whatever the hell it is he does. Moving up front, we have the Kinetic Development Group MREX rail. Now, this is the first version. And while a lot of modifications that Pablo has made to this rifle seem to be more form over function, this one is one I do appreciate the most. The stock rifle has very little real estate up front. It stops right up here, and it comes shipped with 1913 rail sections on the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions. Now, if used properly, I'm sure you could figure out a way to mount all your lights and lasers and freaking whatever all around there, along with a vert grip. But it would limit your options on where you can put things and how much you can stuff up there. The MREX includes M-lock slots all along the bottom, going all the way up to the front, and then gives you some added real estate on the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions up front. It also features a 1913 rail section up here that was intended to be for your IR designators, your D-balls and whatnot, but I tried mounting a D-ball on here, and you'd have to either flip the sight up all the time, which gets kind of annoying, or you'd have to remove the front sight altogether, and that's just stupid. They've since come out with a new version that has additional M-lock back here and has replaced the 1913 rail with more M-lock positions up this way. The rail originally went for about 300 bucks. The new versions go for 300 bucks for the longest version, and then they knock off 10 bucks for each of the shorter versions that they offer. Now, he's got one of them Magpul MVG grips on the bottom here, which I tend to prefer. And he's got a Mod Light OKW 5060 bezel on an Arisaka mount with a Surefire tape switch on the top. This is a very expensive illuminating tool for a very expensive gun. But it does have a nice setup, and this light is particularly bright. So, is it all worth it? Well, Pablo took me out shooting not that long ago, and we put about 500 rounds of crap ammo through this rifle with no issues. The trigger is excellent, as all Geisley triggers tend to be, but admittedly, it is kind of light. If you are running drills and trying to control your bursts, it definitely takes a bit of getting used to. Frankly, this is the same issue I have with all the Geisley triggers. If you know what you're doing, and you get ample time on the gun, you won't have any issues. But if you're some noob and you drop in one of these and then go play Navy SEALs out in the real world, there's a likelihood you can tap off a few rounds you didn't mean to. Anyway, other than that, the gun runs like a top. It's a short stroke gas piston system, so the bolt and carriers stay nice and clean after dumping tons of rounds. But you do have to remember to clean out that piston every now and again. It's got very tight tolerances up here, so the carbon buildup won't take long before that'll start to get a little bit gooey. There's also the magazine compatibility issue. Gen 2 PMags were a no-go because of the bolt hold open on the mag would push the bolt lock ever so slightly upwards. I'll roll in some footage that shows that problem. But these little boys here, this little notch, was just a little bit too much. The gun would cycle, even with those magazines, but the whole time you're grinding your bolt up against the bolt hold open. Not a good thing. Especially when you can't find replacement parts for these fuckers. Now that problem's gone away with the Gen 3 PMags, and it was never an issue with the E-Mags. That's these guys when they were a thing. Now before I close this one out, I want to circle back around to the reciprocating charging handle on the SCAR 16S. It is the first thing that everyone complains about on this weapon, and I've heard Mr. Hot Pants over on TFB TV recently call this gun a piece of shit in a video because he didn't like the reciprocating charging handle. Now, in that same video, he went on to praise the Mini 14 for being such a badass firearm. Okay, B.A. Baracus. Now, you notice that Pablo has a vertical grip mounted up here, which keeps your friggin' hand out of the way of the charging handle. So, as long as you ain't doing no C-clamp nonsense, and I going on record right here is saying that I don't subscribe to the C-clamp. Now, the grip clamp C that the Polinar tactical guys teach is a totally different story. That shit rocks. But C-clamp has no practical defensive or tactical benefit for me. So go ahead and troll me in the comments section if it makes your PP feel bigger. I've gone on long enough about this rifle, and Pablo keeps texting me while I'm filming this and telling me he needs it back to go do his coyote job or whatever. So thank y'all for watching. Be sure to check out my brother Dick's channel, Dooshbag's Brother Dick. And as always, remember, I don't know who you are out there, but I got a gun.